Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and another one of my painting session videos. So I did finish up the mouse I was working on, little mouse knight. He actually came out, I wanted to show him to you guys real quick. He actually came out a lot better than I was expecting him to. I'm much happier with him than I was expecting to be when I finished the last video. So I just finished painting him up off camera because I wasn't expecting him to honestly even be that good. Not that he's amazing or anything. It's just not my favorite miniature, but I do think he came out pretty well, all things considering. Um, if I had known it would come out this good, I would have filmed it, but I didn't figure out that I was actually going to like him until like right at the very end. I was pretty unhappy with him going through the process. So anyway, I'm going to do a new video. I'm going to do this guy, kind of a Dragonkin Smith. He's pretty much all metallics, which I am terrible at. So I do have these new Vallejo metal color metallics that I just got. I haven't experimented with them too much. So yeah, I'm basically going to do this guy, and then I'm going to do a little white and orange for the skin. But he's going to be pretty much just metal. And I'm going to give this a try. See how I like it. Hope everybody's doing okay. Starting to get cold, leaves are on the ground. Getting close to Thanksgiving. All right, a few drops of that. I'm also going to mix in a drop of this mahogany brown, which is a very reddish brown. I don't love how the steel looks completely on its own. Here's like a little dog character I did. And that's pretty much just the flat steel. I think I might have done a little bit of a weathering wash on it, but it just looks a little plain to me. I did mix a tiny bit of blue in there on the mouse's needle sword, and I felt like that helped it a lot. So I want to try mixing a little bit of this brown. I think that'll go well. Oh, damn. Well, that's a lot of brown. Not more than I need. Okay. I'm still going to have a little another drop. Might have gone a little heavy on the brown, but that's okay. It's just an experiment. Actually, that looks kind of cool. make sure I'm holding it on camera. I'm just recording this with my phone. I do not have a fancy YouTube setup. I've wanted to make a channel for a while. And I was kind of paralyzed by wanting to have all my ducks in a row and kind of have that perfection as part of me take over. Which is fine. That's what it is. So I had this whole like elaborate plan. I'm going to start an Instagram and how I'm going to release stuff on that. And I'm going to start a YouTube channel and blah, blah, blah. And I need to have the right camera. And I need to have the right lighting. I need to have the right setup. And I kind of fell down that rabbit hole a little bit. And then I realized that's completely unnecessary. And it was just preventing me from doing what I wanted to do, which was actually start a channel. So rather than worrying about doing things the correct way, I'm just doing them. And then I will figure it out later on. And it's fine if this isn't the best video I ever make. It's not supposed to be. It's one of the first, right? Kind of like this miniature. I would be shocked if this miniature ends up being the best miniature I ever paint. I'm in trouble. You know, I'm still learning, still new, and this isn't, you know, the greatest sculpt in the world either, although I do like it. You know, kind of perfect is the enemy of the good thing. So I realized, oh, okay, well, just do it right with what I got right now, which is my phone and not much else. I got a little stand that holds my phone in place. And that's it. I'm making YouTube videos, which is pretty cool. So hopefully over time, and at the time that I'm recording this, I have 1 subscriber. So since I put up my mouse video, I got my very first subscriber. So if that's you watching this, thank you so much. It actually means a lot to me. It's not, this person isn't a friend or anything like that. I'm not promoting this to anybody. That's just an organic, real subscriber. And I got it in first couple of videos. So that's really exciting to me. I do have another channel that I started before this, a couple of weeks, maybe a month before this. That's a religious channel. And that channel is not doing well at all. She's back already. So it was really, really, really exciting to me to get I wasn't expecting her home so soon.
It's okay. I'm just popping in.
Nothing.
I took your headphones and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Literally doesn't even stay in my ear because they're too big. Alright, let me walk around. I gotta just get my headphones. I texted even talk to you. No, I don't know where mine are. Oh, there they are. Hopefully they're charged. You know, hopefully they'll be here. Alright, I just have to grab my headphones, babies. I'm still going to the gym. Still going to the gym. Okay? Mwah. Mwah. It's okay. Mwah.
Have fun.
Good babies. You can have a treat for that.
Oh, okay. So sorry about that, guys. That was my girlfriend, or I guess ex-girlfriend now. We still live together at the moment since it's all very recent. She went to the gym and forgot her headphones, so she came back. Just hold on a second. I'm gonna get my dogs a treat. I'll be right back. Okay. See how it's going so far. So I got that first coat on there. It looks decent. I did thicker on the breastplate here, and then I thinned it out, kind of going through the legs and the back. And I actually think I like it better thick, to be honest. But I'm gonna play around with it a little bit more. So this part of the metallics up here, I did not mix with the paint, so I'm going to use this to paint the anvil real quick. So that will be more of just the flat steel. That looks okay. So just the way this paint kind of sits, the way it flows around, makes it a little tricky to add color into it and keep that new color consistent. But that's okay. It's a metallic, so it doesn't necessarily have to be consistent. And again, like, I could have picked out lots of differing colors for each of these little pieces. Probably shouldn't have done the hands. I'm gonna go over that. But to me, this and pretty much this entire piece is metal. So how do you deal with that? Other than something like this. Now I know in Warhammer, like Space Marines or whatever, those guys are wearing armor too. And what they do is they use a really shiny, extra glossy colors. So like an extra glossy blue or yellow or whatever. Or what's the candy coat? That's what people like to do, right? They do the super shiny color with like matte gloss or matte finish on top. Kind of like car paint. Again, I like it thicker better. It feels more deliberate. So I'm gonna thicken that up. Like this on the back just looks speckled. It doesn't look good at all. if you have any tips on painting metallics, feel free. I am not good at them. Again, I'm decent at certain things, right? I'm still pretty new to this. I don't have all the equipment, even all the basic equipment that you would expect. I am not good at metallics. I am terrible at basing. I haven't pretty much ignored that part. Part of the reason for that is the models I started with, these models, Zombicide, things like that, everything you see on this table here, comes pre-based. I got a few Kings of War minis that I had to assemble, and those were the first miniatures I actually assembled. Was like last week. So everything has already come pre-based, and a lot of the basing videos just don't apply. Trying to get a tutorial on how to figure this stuff out doesn't work if the miniature's already sitting on the base. They all assume that it's not, and that you paint the base completely separately. And I can understand why that's a lot easier. So when you have miniatures that are already on base, so like these guys, or Zombicide, or Son of Ice and Fire, right, which are most of the miniatures that I own, or other board games like Blood Rage and things like that, I'm not really sure how the best way to approach that is. And I haven't been able to find a decent tutorial for how to approach that overall. I've seen a few videos from, I think, Sarastro, when I was doing the Zombicide thing, for how to paint kind of cobblestone tiles. That's what I ended up doing for a lot of my miniatures, like my Zombicide miniatures specifically. And I like that. That works pretty well for me, but I don't necessarily want to do that 100% of the time. So if you have any tips or can link to me to any guides or videos, I would really appreciate that. So those, I would say, metallics and basing are definitely two of my biggest weaknesses right now as far as fundamentals go. I'm decent at layering. I can do a little bit of dry brushing. I can do a little bit of wet blending. Layering, obviously, it's mainly what I do. And glazing. I like glazing a lot. Kind of just building up value slowly over time. But I'm also not a huge I struggle with tutorials sometimes. I want to learn this stuff, but I don't know, just some of it, sometimes I struggle to watch videos when I really should. Just kind of made it later. All right. So I don't know how I feel about that. It's a thing. It certainly seems I dulled it down a bit. I feel like I want to add a ton of black in there now. I'm probably going to line the crap out of that with the wash. I may want to paint some colors on top too, though. Let's see, the belt I can make. Okay. Huh. Okay. I'll try something. So I'll do this, start with the first coat of my orange. This is going to be my shade color, Auburn-Chato. This is the same orange triad that I used on the lion, and I've never used it before then. I really enjoyed it. So I want to keep it around for a little bit. Do a little bit more with it. I'm also intentionally trying to put my paints on a little bit thicker than I normally would. So I have a tendency to thin my paints a lot, way too much. And especially using Reaper paints, they're pretty much good to go right out of the bottle. It is a little bit color dependent, but I will sit there painting something. I've caught myself, and I'm trying to lay down a skin tone or something, and I'm doing 12 coats, 13 coats, just because I thin my paint so much. I'm basically just glazing or using a wash almost. So I'm trying to get away from that. So I'm trying to, when I start, before I would put a drop of paint and then immediately put 2 to 3 drops of water before I even test it. And at that point, you can't thicken it back up. So I'm trying to just basically paint it straight from the bottle, just wet my brush a little bit, and then obviously keeping it on a wet palette so that it doesn't thicken up. But that's about it. I'm not adding a whole lot else to it at the moment. And just seeing how that works. It is definitely feels a little bit more rewarding. A little bit more instant gratification. Oh, by the way, my name's Drogs. Drogs. Didn't mean to make my voice crack. And yeah, eventually I will be making these videos live streams. That was kind of my intention. But YouTube does not allow you to live stream until you reach a certain level of status, certain number of subscribers and whatnot. Watch time, which, I'm brand new, so I'm nowhere near. I feel like a lot of the social media stuff, they just expect you to have already established it. like the rules for YouTube kind of make sense to me if I had, for example, already been on Twitter and Instagram for like the last 3 or 4 years. And now I'm starting a channel. Then that's a lot of that makes more sense. Whereas just for somebody just starting from scratch, I don't think that's necessarily what they want. They want kind of people who already have audiences, it feels like. So I'm just going to go in and I'm going to put some of this orange skin tone over a few places on the armor. Not trying to like completely cover that up or anything, but almost looks a little bit like rust. I want to give a little bit more depth to them. Can you guys still see? I can't see the camera from where I'm painting from, so if these angles aren't working, I apologize. That's my dogs barking over there. I think I like this. I don't really know what to call it. If this is a technique or anything, I'm just kind of just messing around. But just putting, basic acrylic paint on top of the metallics that I already painted. So first I tinted the metallics with that reddish brown. And now I'm just kind of painting a single layer of, I think it helps I'm using a darker color too, so it's a little bit more transparent. Yeah, no, I like this. It's just kind of giving some depth to the armor a little bit. I don't know how to explain it exactly. But I like how it looks. This is definitely some of the best metallic work I've done. So that's nice. Let's give the skin a second coat now. You will find that even though I have plenty of paint colors, I tend to just reuse the same ones. Like whatever's in my palette is what I try to use. I try to keep I want to make a nice, convincing miniature, and I'm fine with triads and things like that, but I try to keep my colors down. You know, I only want to use so many paints. Had a little bit too much water on my brush there. Let's just clean that up. A little bit more orange on his armor. Mostly just kind of hitting the raised spots. Again, I don't know what I'm doing. This is not a pre-planned thing. I just thought it might look cool, and I'm just kind of painting in a little orange where I think it looks cool. And so far it does. I'm just mostly being careful not to paint too thickly because I still want, you know, the metallic to shine through. And, you know, I'm going to give a little bit on the, a little too. Ooh, too much. Too much. But that's not bad. Yeah. All right. Basically just giving it a little glaze. A few spots there. I don't know if you can see where I'm actually painting. Not bad. I'm grabbing a little bit of tan leather. No. Heartwood brown is a wood color I like. I also like tan leather quite a bit, but you can see they're actually pretty similar. But I'm gonna go with a darker one for this. Because his skin's actually gonna end up being really bright. I'm gonna get a smaller brush. Give him a little wood colored belt or leather belt to create some separation. Yeah, that'll be fine. I'm going to use the same color for the staff on his hammer. So if you're watching this, again, I do want these to become live streams eventually. So the plan is to make it kind of social. You know, right now, can't live stream. I don't have an audience anyway. But I would love it if you would engage in the comments. I will anyone who reply or says post anything in comment, I promise I will reply, even if it takes me a little bit of time to get to it. I want to have kind of conversations and relationships with all of you. It's actually one of the main reasons I'm doing this, is to kind of share my hobby, but to like make friends too. I don't have any friends right now. I just moved to this state, kind of left everyone behind. I have no in real life friends or online right now because I haven't been online, haven't done social media for years. I deleted my Facebook, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, and I haven't had any social media at all since, which was my attempt to kind of take back my real person life, and it doesn't work unless you live in an area where, like, you know, you grew up and went to high school and those people are still around, because it just doesn't. Everybody else is just doing everything online. So yeah. So if you're still watching this, I'd love it if you write in the comments, you know, if you're a painter, what type of miniatures are your favorite to paint? If you have a game, like if you play Warhammer or like Age of Sigmar or 40K or board games, or I'm more interested in a lot of the board games and alternative stuff. Like I said, I own Zombicide, like several Zombicides. I own Black Plague, Green Horde, all the expansions for those. I got the complete Wild West themed one. So eventually you'll see I'm going to paint up that entire set. It's like 350 miniatures. I got sitting in boxes in my basement. Same thing with Massive Darkness 2. I got all of that stuff sitting in boxes in my basement. waiting for me to get confident enough to do it. Got Blood Rage. I want to get into Hero Quest. I also have a fair bit of a Song of Ice and Fire minis. The cool mini or not. I have Greyjoys and some Free Folk. I have both the star sets for those, and a couple of like additional units for each. And then I also have a few neutral units for that, even though I've never played it. I also really want to get into Frostgrave and like Rangers of the Shadow Deep are a big motivation for me. I eventually want to get into, I'm going to start making videos for 5 Leagues from the Borderlands. And I also just recently got in on the Kickstarter for the reprinting of League of Dungeoneers. So that I'm definitely going to be playing on video, sharing that with you guys when I eventually get that in. But those are that's kind of where my interests are. As far as that stuff goes, I would like to get into Hero Quest. And also, I'm really intrigued by Conquest, Last Argument of Kings. I used to play Warhammer Fantasy Battle as a kid, and there isn't really anything out there that kind of scratches that itch very well. Age of Sigmar does not interest me, and 40k never has, so I'm not really looking for that. But I really like the factions and kind of the lore of Conquest, so I find that really interesting. And I like their armies. I think they're all really cool. Probably the least one I'm least interested in is probably the dwarves, the Dragonkin. And they're still really cool for dwarves. I'm just not even. I kind of look like a dwarf, I think, is part of the reason. So I don't know. I don't think I've fully embraced that. They're just not a play style that I particularly like in games. I'm much more, I prefer like Skaven, orcs, a lot more chaotic, like crazy things happening, very swingy type stuff. Dwarves are just so slow and solid and plotting. And that's kind of how I am in real life. So when I'm playing a game, I think I'm just looking for something a little different. But in Conquest, I mean, I typically can't stand human factions. And I think both the 100 Kingdoms and the Nords are cool as hell. I love their take on orcs. And the city-states look really, really, really cool too. I enjoy, and they're undead. I always like undead, except unless they're Egyptian. Another reason I don't like 40k. That's my least favorite version of undead. But yeah, all spires are cool. They're all really cool. I can't really complain about any of it. I have a little bit of red already here in my palette. Not sure which one this is. It's not blood. It might be deep red. And I'm just going to use that to paint. Yeah, that's perfect. Just a little pop on the emblem on his weapon. That's all I want it for. That's a really nice red. You know what? That might even be... This might be a red ink that I was using last week. It's just been sitting in my palette. Because it's not one of those three. I'll tell you that. I don't remember. It's any other red I can think of that I've used recently. It's an ink. That looks cool. Yeah, I'm not interested at all. I'm much more of a hobbyist. I'm not interested in like tabletop simulator or playing games online like that. It just doesn't really do anything for me. So here we go. It's not terrible so far. I think he looks pretty cool. I'm going to give him a little bit of color though. Make his loincloth white. Gotta fix that the wood on his handle too. It worked well for the belt, but not so much. Actually, I got some. What is this brown? I got a little brown here. So, if you hadn't noticed, rather than being a complete perfectionist about colors, I tend to just use whatever's in my palette. So if I got some white in there, I'll use white. Doesn't matter if it's, you know, if it's a bone white and I'm trying to paint somebody's eyes or something like that. Okay, well, that guy's eyes get to be bone white, you know, and I figure that's how your happy accidents happen, right? But I really don't like wasting paint. It bugs the crap out of me. So I will just reuse stuff, even if I can get away with it, I'll just reuse something else. So like this one, for example, this looks way better than what I had before. It's a much, much better brown for the handle. Why was I using the other one originally? Because I didn't want to bother opening up a new color just for this handle when I also wanted something for the belt. So I just combined them. But since this is already my palette, this works out. In fact, the other way around, if I had noticed this earlier, I probably would have just used this for the belt too. I'm just going to clean up that hand a little bit. Got a little wood coloring on it. Try to paper that over. Okay. Yeah, also where I moved to is a pretty small town. And I mean, it's not the smallest in the world, but it's maybe 10,000 people, maybe a little more. And we don't have a friendly local gaming. Damn. Don't really have a friendly local gaming store. There's like a bookstore where you can pick up like Magic cards, Pokemon cards, and like D&D books and stuff like that. They actually even sell a few miniatures, which is really cool. But they're D&D miniatures. You know, it's not any wargaming stuff. I mean, technically I'm painting a D&D miniature right now, so nothing wrong with that. And then there's a video game store that also sells a little bit of board gaming stuff, but the only miniature stuff they seem to carry is Star Wars Legion for some reason. I think that's what the owner likes. And it just doesn't, not my kind of vibe. The store, I don't know anything about Star Wars Legion. Not a very big Star Wars fan since Disney took it over, though. I don't watch any of it. After I watched the first one, I thought it was bad. The first Disney one. And then I watched Rogue One. And I was like, this is better. Okay, like, this is a step in the right direction. And then I kind of waited a little while and I watched Rogue One again. And I realized this is not good. This is also not good. This movie sucks. Except for the final scene with Vader coming in and going all like Akira in the hallway fight thing. That's the only good part of the whole film. And it's a pretty cool payoff. Don't get me wrong, but it's not a good film. And it's the best thing that they've come up with by far. So I just haven't watched any of the new Star Wars stuff since. Oh, I missed the whole sun on the back. It's alright, I gotta go over the first one anyway. Yeah, I would love to hear about, you know, what you guys are into. If you paint, if you don't paint, if you don't paint, why not? Is it something you want to do? Do you just enjoy watching other people paint? I mean, I used to watch other people paint. Not miniatures, but like portraits and stuff, landscapes, like Bob Ross and things. I had no intention of like painting along. I just enjoyed. It was kind of like a Zen thing. I just found it really relaxing. So, if that's you, great. If you're a fellow painter and you paint, I don't know, why are you watching me? To learn? Maybe you're not the best guy for that, but everybody has their own unique style, so everyone can teach you something. I do firmly believe that. But if you do like to paint, what's your go-to? You know, there's a lot of cool miniatures out there There's so much cool stuff now. Nobody could possibly paint all of it, even if that's all you did. Even if all you did was just sit around and paint 60 hours a week, maybe you could keep up with like Games Workshop. You know, if you had unlimited money and unlimited time, maybe you could keep up with their products. That's one company. It's a big company, but holy, there's so much cool stuff out there. Kings of War and Conquest and Malifaux and Infinity, and then just all these board games have miniatures now, which I love. I'm really into that. I like kind of board game style rules a little better. A lot of the time. I mainly come from more of a video gaming background, and that just kind of fits me better. Some of the wargaming stuff's a little too free flowing. And then obviously you have all the Kickstarter stuff, like for example, and then just the independent sculptors. Like for example, I love Reaper Minis. Love it. They make awesome stuff. Not 100% of the time, but a lot of the time. I really, really enjoy a lot of their work, and I plan on painting a lot of Reaper Minis in the future. Broken Sword miniatures too, although they're much smaller. They only do metal. But you know, something like Reaper miniatures, like you could just paint Reapers and you would never run out. You know, they come out with 10 miniatures a month, something like that, and they have thousands already out. It'd be so hard just to get caught up with that. And then you have all the 3D printer stuff. I mean, just wow. And all these cool little games too. You know, in addition to Frostgrave, I'm really interested in Relic Blade. Looks really fun. I really like their miniatures. A little pricey, but they're all metal and they look really cool. And what was the other one? Oh, like Carnival. Carnival looks really cool. They're all resin, so I'm not quite sure. I haven't really worked with resin yet. I don't know how I'm gonna like those. So I want to just get like one of the small sets and try them out. But I've looked through and I love their sculpts. And the game's supposed to be pretty well designed too. So that's something I would definitely. It's a little too thick. I'm definitely going to be looking into in the future. Carnival and Rumble Slam from, what was that, TT Combat? Also, very expensive, but if I get the money for it, I want to check out Arena Rex. Has just these, at least the paint jobs they put up there, they look incredible. Some of the best looking minis I've seen. You know, they look like display quality busts and stuff, but they're miniatures meant to be gamed with. So that looks really cool to me. Plus, I like gladiators and stuff. I like gladiators, I like Vikings. I like monsters a lot. Anything that's just different. Oh, I screwed up that sun. The white was still too wet. You know what? I may actually throw some of that red up there anyway. I don't hate that. Okay, so I'm going to take a quick break from those colors, give that a minute to dry. I'm going to use some Vallejo Model Wash. I don't typically wash my miniatures, but I do use this as my liner. I used to make my own liner out of black, and it's just very inconsistent. So this stuff works well enough that it's just another thing I just don't have to worry about. I have a dedicated brush just for it. Goes on very, very dark, like black, and then it dries to like a lighter gray. So it's nice for lining and for painting in shadows. And I got the idea from this for Vince Venturella. I watch a lot of his videos when I do watch videos. I like the way he explains things. I don't agree with him on everything. For example, he's a big proponent of airbrushes. And I get why he likes them. Because he's a Warhammer player. He plays Age of Sigmar and he plays 40k. So if you play those games, you're going to have a lot of vehicles and large like centerpiece models. And I get that. Like if you're going to be painting a lot of those, I wouldn't want to have to prime everything and hand paint every little detail on every single one of those gigantic models. But I don't play Warhammer. I don't plan on painting much Games Workshop stuff. I may get into like Warcry. Some of the Warcry models look really cool. And the like Hero Quest board game. Or the, what do they call it? Warhammer Quest. Curse City looks really cool to me. Although the models aren't all great. So that's more where I would be going. And the rest of the stuff I have so much stuff I plan on painting. And it's not a lot of giant models. And even if I get into Conquest, yeah, I'll be doing a little bit of that, but it's mostly going to be rank and file. And I just don't see myself using an airbrush that much. One thing, I don't have the space for it, so it's not really an option, but it does feel a little bit like cheating to me. When I go on YouTube and I watch some of, not saying that the way he does it is that way, but I've watched tutorials and like painting videos like, oh, watch me paint this army. And it's all airbrush. They base coat it and then they throw 3 different colors. You know, they'll do like a purple into a magenta into a green or a blue, rising up the model. And that's it. So and they already primed it black and sometimes black, gray, white, and then do that over it in very thin coats. And you get this super smooth, nice like shadow transition. And then all they have to do is some highlights. They just take some white and they do a few edge highlights and do the eyes and then do like a glow effect on a weapon or something like that, and they're done. So they basically aren't picking up a brush the whole paint job, and it does look cool. Like especially if you're painting like some of the undead models, right? Like ghouls and wraiths and some of the things like that, specters and stuff. Having those kind of color transition things can look really cool. Daemons. But that to me is kind of cheating. If you're if the first time you pick up a brush and put brush to model is when you're doing the finishing highlights, that's not right. So there's a way to do it. Like I'm technically using a wash right now, but I'm painting it. I'm not slobbering it on. I'm painting it where I want it to be. Right? And that is a lot more satisfying. I still have a nice tool that does the job. The reason I like this wash, because I could just paint, right? I could just pick up a color, be like, all right, I'm going to paint my shadows. And I do that a little bit. The reason I like this is because it's basically a universal color. So I can take this and I can paint shadows on armor like I'm doing right now. I can also paint it on blue or green or brown or red. And it still works. It still reads correctly, right? So I can do this to paint shadows on armor, but also on an orc or a red demon or barbarian flesh tone. Like it works all the time. Has a little bit of trouble sometimes, I feel like, with white, but what doesn't? But yeah, works good. And it saves me time. And I'm not trying to, I spend way too much time on my miniatures. I'm constantly trying to cut it down. Because I will just spend too much time on them without thinking about it. And I'd rather just do a good job and paint more than just spend all my time on one miniature. So I'm constantly trying to speed up, even though, like I said, I don't really believe in I don't really believe in airbrushing or contrast paints. Because I don't think, right, like if I sit here and I paint 1,000 miniatures, I'm going to become a lot better of a painter. Doesn't matter what style I use. Doesn't matter what I do. I'm going to become a better painter if I do that. If I airbrush primed all my miniatures, dry brushed them, and then contrast painted them. Once I figured out how to do that, effectively, like other than getting a little bit better with the airbrush, getting better at dry brushing, I don't think I would become better as a painter. I think I would just kind of be assembling, if that makes sense. So it's not a bad thing. If that's what you like to do and that's what's fun for you, by all means, go do it. But I would like to be in this for the long haul. And I just don't think it's what I want to do. I don't think painting 1,000 miniatures in that style is going to make you a better painter in the same way that painting 1,000 miniatures, by hand, using layering, nothing wrong with dry brushing. Like that's a legit technique. I love dry brushing. And again, I'm painting with a shade right now, or a wash. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Now that said, the exception I would I would make for that is basing. Anything, if there's a cheat, anything that lets you just base things quickly, fine by me. I don't know why that's separate in my brain, but it is. I don't think they're the same thing. All right. So give you guys a closer look of how he's doing so far. Still just doing okay. I got a lot of work to do on the loincloth, but the armor is basically done except for some highlights. Yeah. So some more linen white. Still getting that. I'm gonna try to give him some ice real quick too. Damn it. Might have a little too much moisture on my wet palette. Eventually, I would love to get a 3D printer. I don't think I can do it in this house though. At least not a resin one. I don't really have the space for it. Might be able to do one in the basement. It really depends how bad how toxic the resin is. I don't have a perfect ventilation. So oh, I get some hair. No. So what I would love to do is eventually get to the point where, like, I want to run a Frosthaven campaign. Get the books and print out my warband, print out warband for my buddy, whoever I'm going to be playing with, and then get custom miniatures for everything, for every monster in the book, and some of the bosses and whatnot, and then print them out and get it all painted up and a bunch of custom terrain specifically for that. And so that I can make sure everything matches kind of thematically or aesthetically, not thematically. And run a whole campaign like that. That would be like my ultimate end goal. Like, okay, competitive play doesn't interest me at all. Not really. Just, again, I might get into Conquest because I really like the miniatures and Song of Ice and Fire, but even that would be like, all right, let's sit around and have a few beers and like do this. But I would much rather have, progressive like narrative campaigns, I guess my mindsets would probably fits a little better with like some of the historical games. I just don't really like historical games. I'm just more into fantasy. Sci-fi too, a little bit. know if I'm as much into sci-fi. Infinity looks cool. Too impatient. Try. So don't get me wrong. Like if you like Warhammer products, Games Workshop products, like don't get mad at me because I don't particularly like them. I'm not necessarily a hater. I'm not gonna make fun of you or anything like that. I think they're very expensive, which is not a deal breaker for me. Like I said, I like Conquest. I like Arena Rex. Those are really expensive too. I don't love their games. And so when I was a kid, I got in, Games Workshop was my introduction, but I was playing 5th edition Warhammer Fantasy Battle. I was playing Skaven. And I went and looked at their website the other day, and I was just like, well, I still really like Skaven. Like, I really like the lore, kind of the idea behind it. It gets me excited. And I went, I didn't really know, I don't know much about Age of Sigmar except the lore is stupid. So I went to their website, and I was like, okay, well, what do they have? Instead of having like 14 factions, they have 4 sides. Basically, it's good, chaos, undead, and orcs. Greenskins. It's like, all right, whatever. And then they put Skaven in with the chaos, which is, okay, fine. They've always been like an kind of off-brand chaos team. I started looking at the models, and half of them were the same models from like 1999, 1998. They haven't changed. They're just 3 times as expensive. But they're the exact same metal models that they always were. And the new stuff doesn't look good. Like the new Storm Vermin and Clan Rats, like I don't like them. The old ones look better. The Vermin Lord looked cool. And the Screaming Bell. And that's it, really. Like 2 models. The 2 biggest, most expensive models. They're both like $100. Are the only things on that entire army that look good and modern. So, like, I don't know what they expect a player like me to do. Like, they're not giving me anything to buy. I actually saw Tabletop Combat has a Kickstarter for like a Knoll army, which is basically their version of Skaven. That actually looks really cool. And I may consider getting that at some point. Painting that up. As a Warhammer Fantasy Battle army. Just because as a kid, like it was kind of always my dream to have a full Skaven army. Fully painted, like 3,000 points. enough where I had all the unit, like I could feel the 2,000 point army, but I could feel what 2,000 point army I wanted to, you know? So, okay, I don't want to include the Screaming Bell, and I don't want to include any of my siege weapons in this one. Okay, well, I can still feel 2,000 points using, you know, a bunch of rat ogres and other stuff. So I may end up I'm gonna see. I'll get like a single unit from them when that comes out, and just kind of see what the quality level's like and how much I like it. There's also been a couple 3D print things that I've seen, like Patreon subscriptions that have 3D prints for the entire Skaven set that are really cool. Definitely better than what Games Workshop has. So, again, I'm not like anti Games Workshop. I feel like Games Workshop's like anti me a little bit. So a player, like, I love the stuff as a kid, took a break. Now I come back as an adult with some money, and I want to give them my money. And the game that I want to play is they killed, doesn't exist. And the team that I want to play is still there, but it hasn't been supported, so they've basically killed it. I mean, it's a mess. It's in much worse shape than it was when I was a child. So if they literally had done nothing to Warhammer and just left it in 5th, 6th edition and never came out with a single new model, it would be better and just increase the prices like 50% over the last 20 years. I would be giving them my money. I would be a customer of theirs. But the direction they've gone, I can't really, I don't see anything that they have that interests me that much to spend the prices that they ask. And I'm more of a hobbyist. I don't really play games, so I'm not tied into like, oh, well, these are what my friends play, so I have to play, you know, this game or whatever. I don't have to play any of these. I probably won't play most of these. It's much more of a painting hobby for me. So if you want me to spend $100 on a miniature or on a box of miniatures, they better be pretty good. Like, I better really like what I see. And I don't think Games Workshop's met that standard for the majority of their products. They may have some stuff. Some of their undead stuff looks pretty cool. Like the Bone Reapers. I think their miniatures for like Warcry and Underworlds look really cool too. Yeah, we'll see. Who knows? Maybe somebody will open up a gaming store in town at some point in the next couple of years, and then I'll get into whatever everybody else plays. And I'll get really into it. I have no idea how it's all going to shake out, but at the moment, I'm more interested in getting into like Relic Blade, Carnival, Frostgrave, Arena Rex would be like my top choices. Rumble Slam. And some of the maybe some of the other indie games like was reading the rules for Necropolis the other day, which is this cool, like, undead only, miniature agnostic game with lots of terrain, really tight conditions that looks really fun from reading it. Like, I definitely would like to give that a try. Build a really tight 16 by 16 inch board. You fight over. I don't know if it has a ton of depth, you know, but I don't think it's trying to be, you know, a lifestyle game where, you know, this is what you do. But the idea really appeals to me of like, okay, here's Frostgrave, and I have like my 5 characters, and then, you know, I play that wizard up until, you know, he's level 30 or 40, and over time, you know, because you get hideouts and more, and then upgrades for your hideouts. And if I have a 3D print set up, I could actually print out the hideout, right? And say it has hideouts, an old tavern. So I print out an old tavern, and then I do some custom work on it to make it look the way I want. And then that would be where I would store my Frostgrave warband in between games. And it would sit in their tavern on my shelf in between games. I think that would be really, really cool. And then as I purchase upgrades for it, I would print them out, 3D print them, and then add them to my little diorama, something like that. That to me gets me going. So to me, that's sitting on my shelf and it's still being played while it's up on my shelf, you know? I really, really, really like stuff like that. Yeah, any sort of long-term hobby game I can get into, where I can also build a physical base for my miniatures at the same time, is right up my alley. Doesn't have to be rules for it, just has to make thematic sense, I guess. So you guys think he's starting to shape up? Still got a few more highlights for him. I think I'm going to end the video here. Because my dog's asking to go out, and it's been an hour and a half now. So I want to clean them up a little bit. I'm going to add probably just some basic steel back in as a highlight on the armor. I've already highlighted the skin. I want to do a little bit more on the loincloth. Clean them up a little, and I'm going to fill in that sun. I think I'm going to fill it in the red, the same red that's on the weapon. And that would pretty much be it. Okay, so if you've made it this far, congratulations, you're a masochist. And I really appreciate it, and I love you. So thank you for joining me for another painting video. And hopefully I'll be putting the finished guy up as a short. So if you want to see what he's like when he's completely done, you can go check him out there. Yeah, thank you for joining me. God bless, and have a wonderful day. Thanks.